Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
You're listening to Pao Bites with the Daily Pao.
Welcome to Pao Bites. We're the Daily Pao. We're a city-specific culture and food website. I'm Pranuti.
I'm Amit.
Purva.
And Pao Bites is a series of mini episodes of podcasts that we do, and we run it in the weeks between our fortnightly podcast, which is called the Paodcast. So today we're going to be talking about Art Deco furniture. Now, a couple of weeks ago, there was a talk by a colonial historian called Abigail McGowan at Godrej Archive. She talked about how Art Deco furniture sort of entered Bombay's living rooms in the 1930s. And so we thought it would be interesting to talk about Art Deco furniture, which is something that you will easily find in the city's, antique stores and even in Chor Bazaar. In fact, those who are interested in antiques, it's very expensive, of course, but it's also quite easily available. I mean, if you just speak into any of the galas in Chor Bazaar, you'll see a lot of real and sort of reproduced Art Deco furniture. And what's interesting is that it arrived in Bombay in the 1930s. That's also when you had sort of Bombay's answer to Miami, which is like the strip of Art Deco buildings on Marine Drive and around the Oval. You know, the first generation of local architects, people like G.B. Matre, who built these Art Deco buildings. And it was at the same time the furniture design sort of entered Bombay's showrooms and shops and people's homes.
And it's interesting because apparently Bombay has the second highest number of Art Deco buildings after Miami.
That's right.
So, I mean, this really took off. I mean, the architects of the time really took to it. And it's great that they did because, I mean, those buildings are some of the nicest we have in the city where, as we've discussed in a previous episode, a lot of the architecture in the city is pretty bad. So, with some of the characteristics that make this so great and it makes it so distinct. I mean, do you want to talk about some of the...
Yeah, so Art Deco, and by the way, in the 1930s, McGowan said that it wasn't really known as Art Deco, it was just known as modern. Mm-hmm. So modern was Art Deco. So the characteristics of Art Deco in terms of furniture and architecture are sort of very clean geometric lines. I mean, if you look at the buildings, if you look at the furniture, it's just sort of not very ornamental, quite functional. And there is some ornamentation in terms of, there are certain typical Art Deco motifs.
Yeah, some nautical
some
motifs.
are nautical, but some are very sort of, geometric patterns. The ziggurat, which is a sort of zigzag pattern, is quite common. If you see Art Deco armchairs, a lot of them have very sort of elegant, swooping armrests.
Yeah, and like the buildings too, like they have these sort of rounded corners and they've got balconies.
That's right.
So,
but all sort of very, very minimal.
Yeah, minimal, but also so distinct in a way that it shows that sometimes less can be more.
Exactly.
And I think that's with the furniture too, because, and by the way, one way to see a slightly postmodern interpretation of Art Deco furniture is at Blue Frog, where they've sort of been inspired by that whole geometric patterns and they're rounded what they call pods,
Right.
Because that's again the sort of circular design and...
Right. Or even, the stained glass at Bombay Canteen. I mean, that's sort of Art
Bombay
Deco
Canteen is another
motif.
big place. In fact, a lot of the Bus Ride studio have actually taken a lot of inspiration from Art Deco. You can find it in 145 in Kala Ghoda. You'll find it in Masala Ba in Bandra. It really sort of helps give you that vintage Bombay look.
That's right. So in the 1930s, McGowan, she pointed out that before that, the sort of discourse around the home, which was, carried out in women's magazines and in housekeeping journals, it was about how you could keep your house clean. Mm-hmm. And the British were very particular about how to keep the house clean. But in the 1930s, there's a shift from how to keep your house clean to how you can decorate your house, in sort of in the public sphere.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of, sort of really quite lovely newspaper ads and, furniture catalogs showing, all the things that you would need to have a truly modern home. Now, of course, this is stuff that could only be afforded by the very rich, even back then, because I mean, at that time, I don't know, a huge population of Bombay, something like, over 70% lived in a single room. So it was very few people who could actually afford Art Deco furniture.
But what if you go to Chor Bazaar now, and how much would you be like you said, there are reproductions, right? So
Right.
Is that something that you should be encouraged to buy? I mean, I don't know. Like,
I mean, of course, if you can't buy the real thing, then like a good reproduction is, I mean, if you're okay with that kind of thing, then yeah.
But how much would I'm guessing a lot of these things would be in disrepair at Chor Bazaar, all this kind of
some of them, for Chor Bazaar, actually not entirely, because, they restore the furniture before selling it.
Okay.
So they do a pretty good job of it.
Right.
And Chor Bazaar, again, you can bargain. But if you go to a place like Trafford House, which is in Fort on Prescott Road, fabulous
better
furniture.
known for their brownies.
Yeah, they
Sleight
have a counter selling sleight of hand brownies. Fantastic furniture, but it runs into the tens of thousands.
And these are all reproductions.
No, it's actual. It's antique. It's real antique.
Furniture.
Right. Okay.
Again, Phillips Antiques, you get Art Deco stuff. It's the real deal.
Right.
And sort of various antique dealers.
Yeah.
But there are some stores that used to sell furniture in the 1930s that are still around. There's Kamdar at Churchgate, which now sells really horrible furniture. I mean, three of us used to work there at one point, and we crossed Kamdar several times, and it sells really, really awful stuff now. But back then, they were one of the purveyors of, modern Art Deco furniture. Then the Godrej showroom at Fort, this is behind Bombay Gymkhana, again used to sell this kind of stuff. And the Bombay store, which is now a very popular tourist shop, and you get everything from figurines to jewelry to clothes. It used to be called Bombay Swadeshi. Right. And Bombay Swadeshi used to sell everything. It was a department store. I mean, I used to get my school uniforms from Bombay Swadeshi back then. So some stores are actually still around.
And I think that Art Deco is sort of coming, it's in again, a lot of, as we've been seeing it at restaurants. And if you're okay with reproductions, if you're okay with getting furniture made yourself, you can, these designs are available.
A lot of homes actually have it. I've seen it in a lot of, people have retained it, and it may be like sort of chipped at
because
some places.
It's so distinct,
but
right?
People have held on to it. And that was my first introduction to Art Deco furniture. Seeing it in like these old homes,
Yeah. And I think it's sort of undergoing some kind of, there's a revival of interest now.
Yeah.
Because, suddenly Art Deco is very cool.
Yeah.
But at some point, I think Art Deco furniture was considered quite heavy.
Yeah.
Because, those sofa sets and armchairs, they are pretty heavy,
Right. I mean, time before Urban Ladder and...
Exactly.
Which is,
but now
Urban Ladder stuff is heavy.
No, but it's homogenizing everything is what I mean,
But some of their stuff is Art Deco inspired.
Right.
Because it's quite a sort of unique design. And there's so much Art Deco jewelry that you will find in shops, online, etc.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in Art Deco as a style,
if you want a bit of modern in your home, it's such a nice name, modern. It's so cute, because now everything is so overused,
right?
That it's nice that it had such a hefty meaning back then. Modern meant a whole style,
exactly, a whole sort of way of living.
Yeah,
of course. Very few could actually, afford it, but yes, it did mean a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Do check out Chor Bazaar for deals and various antique shops around Bombay. So that's it for this episode of Pao Bites, and we'll see you next week.
If you like listening to the podcast, check out Geek Fruit, hosted by Uber geeks Tejas Menon and Jishnu Guha. This show talks about geek culture from an Indian perspective. Star Wars, comic books, science fiction and fantasy, TV shows and more.
Excuse me भैया, excuse me.
बोलिए मैडम.
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वैक्स है, IVM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, ड्रिंक्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर सकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है. आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम. आप जाओ IVMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप. सब आपकी उंगलियों पे.